What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the same. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. We have Ronen, Menipaz of M51. Before I formally introduce Ronen, I like to talk about other episodes people should check out. Since this is part of the Top Israeli Business Leaders series, check out the other ones I've had. I had Weisz of Mobileye, Yuri Adoni, Laron Rose, who is actually also on Ronen's podcast, Yossi Vardy, John Medved of Our Crowd, and many more. So check them out. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships and partnerships. And we do that by helping you run your podcast. You know, for me, Ronen, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships, profile them, their thought leadership, their company, and what they're working on my podcast. So, you know, if you've thought about podcasting, you should. And if you have questions, go to rise25.com and email us anything that you want. My business partner and I have been podcasting both for over a decade. Support at rise25.com. Check it out. Today, we have Ronen. Menipaz is an Israeli investor, entrepreneur, tech advisor. He's been a founder in the entertainment, ad tech, fintech space with over 25 years of entrepreneurial experience. He's a CEO and founder of M51 Entrepreneur Labs, a private equity company located in Tel Aviv, Israel. And the company helps empower Israeli entrepreneurs by investing M51's time, think power, and network of resources. And he's got a treasure trove of experience and stories from startups to companies going public to being sold to much more. So, Ronen, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You forgot saying that I'm really nice too.
Yes. Well, I don't know you well enough to speak to that, but it's a weird combination, Canadian Israeli. It's like you have the laid back, nicest stereotypical, and then the confrontational stereotypical, right?
Yeah, it's hard to actually be sorry for your existence and also fight for it at the same time. So yeah, it's complex on the psyche.
What was that change like when you what was the point when you went from Canada to Israel, and what was the culture difference that you felt?
Yeah, so there's a thing where when I came here too because I was raised in Canada, and what's amazing about that is meeting Jews is like finding a diamond in the rough, right? But not in a bad way. It's just something that you appreciate a lot, that you have a common ground with. And for me, it was coming to a place where you can actually meet many of those kinds. Was for me a purpose. I'm a descendant of people who built this country or went from the Holocaust. So I was young and excited to be in the army. So I came here like the high school later stages, and I want to do the army thing and stuff, and to be a part of that community, because it was something very important to me. And I was born Canadian, unlike my parents, which spoke English to me, and we only spoke English at home, but we're actually born and raised in Israel. So for me, I wanted to be as Israeli. My sister is born in US and stuff like that. So it was, for me to do that, I wanted to be, Zionistic on that stage. Moving here was insanely hard. But everything hard is like eating a salad. It may not be tasty, but it's worthwhile. That's on, hindsight. But I literally came from a place where it was a public school where we had like ice hockey in the recess and pizza day and whatever, to a place where it was no air conditioning, 2 TV channels instead of 300, not knowing the language. And I used to collect cards and trade them. And here there was a game where you it was on quantity, not on quality. So they would pack them up and clap their hands to make them roll over. And I would see cards that are worth money and they didn't have a Beckett here. And I was like, what's going on? So I felt like a little bit like McFly going back, because it was a pivot point. It was like in the late 90s. So what happened was it was right before the bubble. So I think 2003 would help me out a little bit. So it was like on that change, I didn't have a cell phone and it came, everything happened. So it managed down, but I was thrown out like literally from every school. And not because I was really problematic, just because I had no language skills. I was socially, different. And I'm already a kind of like, I'm hyperactive, creative, and I'm a son of a professor, which on entrepreneurial and industrial engineering and business administration, where the theoretical, it's a person, he's a genius that knows everything, but it's always theoretical. And I'm very hands down because of that. So I'm doing my way, and you're not going to tell me, like, not in a bad way. It wasn't a bad way, but now it's like, this is the model. I'm like, no, you know what? This is the model. And then, so also that typecast on it, I had like literally 7 schools. I one time did physics, they threw me out. I did music, I threw that. So I really wasn't, it didn't work that well.
It wasn't that seamless, I guess you could say. What was your first?
I didn't finish school.
What was the first? You feel like your real entrepreneurial company? Fast forward through trading cards or anything like that. It feels like you always kind of had the sense you were an entrepreneur even before it was glorified.
I sort of actually, maybe today I own it that I could have done something differently, but I felt like there's no way in hell I would get a job. Or I wasn't smart and I wasn't talented. So I had to make my own pathway. And the first thing was actually, there's one of two. The first feedback I got was by selling vacuum cleaners from door to door when I was 16 to get money. And it was something great because it took away my ego and it made me a lot more social and approachable, because it's an impossible thing to sell a $2,500 Kirby vacuum cleaner by knocking by doors, okay, and getting in and showing them how it works. Okay, you have about 6 seconds. That's not even an elevator pitch. And it's 100% negativity. So you have to flip that switch really quickly. And even then, you have about an hour and a half to sell $2,500, which I, even now in hindsight, if I'm not young and really energetic, I think today I would not be able to do that. But it really helped me because the persistent side, I was actually doing better, and I didn't quit till I did good. And I had my own employees, which reached me to the second thing. My real entrepreneurship, first one, is to solve a problem. I was unpopular, and I had time on hands getting out of school. And I really wanted to be popular because I had no language. I needed to have a superpower. It's not that I didn't have money. My parents are great. They helped me out, but I didn't have especially amount. I wasn't especially good looking. I didn't think I was smart and charismatic. And, I solved that because it made me sad not to be popular. And I wanted to also kiss a girl or, any normal KPI that you have when you're younger. So I did a birthday.
Spoken like a true investor, a KPI when it comes to women. But yeah, keep going.
Like how do I do that? So what I did is I opened up a club, like a place, which was actually a chicken coop in a kibbutz. And I persuaded the kibbutz to split the profits, which I don't even know how I said that then. I just said, like, let's just, share the profits, whatever. And I told them we would do free, because it's non-alcoholic in the beginning, free whatever. And they pay an entrance and we'll bring a DJ, and the chicken coop had no chickens. It was just laying there. So they said, you know what, let's do it. And it started off with my birthday, which I brought probably a few tens of people. And if you fast forward to 4 or 5 weeks, when you do a club for people who don't have any other options, and you're very persistent on starting to get it, and you're not looking, I wasn't talking about potential. I was dividing whatever I had just to make it work, right? Because it was for a different KPI, right? So fast forward, it was one of the first clubs in like that had selection in the entrance. It became a place for 3,000 children per week. Children,
Wow.
sorry, and it also was in 17. I had Thursdays was for college people, okay, which was my place. Literally, people were 5 years older than me, or 7. There was 30-year-olds and whatever. It was so packed that we had to do the selection of cars. It was before they legalized this, so we would actually say, "Oh, 5 men in a car with a Peugeot, no, thank you," and they would take a secret password. And we built like a summer place or whatever. It was they have a newspaper called Haaretz, which is the 7th biggest newspaper in Israel. That was the second income after the club for the kibbutz. Okay, and it was like cash based. I had no idea what I'm doing. Like there's a whole story about that side to that. But literally, it was like if I would make about $10,000 a week in the beginning, it was like me making $1 billion today. It was insane, and I hit that KPI. It was pretty good popularity on the side, and that was really my first like from nothing making something idea. Something came out, and my first positive feedback that that I did something and I owned it. So like owned it for myself.
I want to get to M51 in a second. And what you look for when someone is pitching you their idea and themselves. But before I have you answer that, I'm really curious, Ronen, about you said, with the vacuum cleaner sales. I mean, that really puts hair in your chest, to do that. And it's a lot of rejection. And you said it's not even an elevator pitch. It's like you have 5 seconds or less. What did you do at that point to get in the door? What were some things that worked? Within that split second, they see you, they're like, slam the door or let you in.
Yeah, so I A/B tested that. And the trick that worked most is this. When I knocked on the door, I had a calculator in my hand and the vacuum cleaner under my armpit. And usually because I was a little in age, I was also shorter than most of the people who answered the door. So when they did that, I would hand the calculator and go under the arm, which was probably on holding the door, and start vacuuming as fast as I can on the battery, which holds about 7 minutes, and start talking like this was supposed to happen and we had a meeting, which today I wouldn't do because I don't know the guts and I understand how inappropriate it is. But it got me to sales where about at least 80% did not throw me out, at least 50% heard me out, and about 10%, maybe 7% would actually purchase the product, meeting it would give a handout like the beginning, the $500 I'm thinking about it thing, which for me that was the KPI, and it took less than 7 seconds to do that.
Love it. So I'm curious of a story because you probably get pitched a lot of companies contact you wanting to work with you and the other founders, but what was a case where you heard someone's pitch and what they were up to, you passed, it wasn't a fit, and they came back to you, and then you decided it was a fit?
Well, okay, so I'll tell you this. The way we market, just to understand the context, is helping entrepreneurs no matter what. So the pitches themselves is the way we market, because entrepreneurs, there's not a time where you can find an entrepreneur. They need to need you, so you need to be top of mind. So all our marketing efforts are to try to meet as much as possible, not for a no or yes. And the answer to that question would be, it would never fall because I passed on something that I liked. Okay. It would usually mean that they passed on me, but I still wanted to work with them and work together. Right. So it wouldn't happen that because then I would just say, I have no time to do that respectively. Okay. Which doesn't mean I passed on the offer because I thought it was good. Right. So that's a new story. But there are times where, which is even harder for me, I think, because it's getting a no, right? And then coming back and not maximizing on the deal, but closing the deal, although you know that the options are less because they didn't want you in the beginning. So an example for that is there was a company where it's called Ovivo, which is a gaming company, where they were amazing entrepreneurs. It was very well planned. It was an exciting trend. we only take things that we have active impact on. Okay, and you know about and we feel good with. I'm not a very good passive investor. We're very good as a community active investors, and I really wanted to invest all of the capital they needed and take an account of all we can do for that structure. Okay, and try to do a real deal, and for them to take us instead of saying round A, round B, round C. Let's do all of round A, B, C together and just go through KPIs, and we don't need all the politics. I love it. Okay? These are very talented people, and I really thought they would be synergetic for us. We would learn from them, they would learn from us, and it's really a match. What happened was they passed because they thought that maybe the potential, which is always true, if they do A, B, and C, okay, they can get more money, and also the strategic partners that they need, put it on, which is also true. And by the way, we wanted to do that as well. We're just saying we want to do it when we're not selling, when we proved it. That was the difference between us. And they said, but we really want you, so we'll give you like a piece of advisory board or like whatever just for you, so you'll be part of it. I said, guys, listen, I don't like to do things like that. It's okay. I'm helping you anyways. Okay. They insisted that's the amount of time when someone gives you something that you say, I don't think this is a fair deal. I keep it. And it says, okay, because I'll hang around and I'm a Canadian. So the Canadian side will try to be involved anyways, because he apologized. And the Israeli side would say you're a sucker, but 50% of effort is fine.
It was internal struggle in your head. They're battling each other.
That's my worst partner is right inside me. Anyway, so and what happened was I actually helped them do the whole round stuff. And when they became complex and quick and annoying and stuff like that, and they had a few challenges on the way, they came around the circle and said, okay, you know what? We agree. So how much do you want now? And they expected us, and I'm not saying this to market, it's a real story. They expected us to like try to maximize it. And then it said, no, we're not going to do that. Let's just run. And it was actually from a freebie to a few $millions of investment to a very successful, amazing company. And I think that thing that I didn't maximize, or we didn't, because there was a few partners involved, is something so important, because from that moment forward, I felt no politics, okay? And it was really like saying, thank you, because you didn't make me feel bad about it, which whoever understands what an entrepreneur is and thinks that money makes him tick is someone that needs to go and be an entrepreneur. It's probably like the last thing. So that was something, and for an entrepreneur to trust one another on the breakthrough on this one was something that I really felt as part of the success more than the talented people in the idea itself. So yeah, and so they passed on me, but I'm okay being the second best option as long as it's successful.
Well, Ronen, if anyone goes to m51.co and on the About page, it says very clearly, we are not a venture capital firm. Okay. We do not invest in business plans. We don't even open the files you send. We invest in people. Dig into that a little bit further. You made it's a statement right off the bat.
Yeah. So one thing, we do open files, but we're extreme on the message on purpose, because there's a problem. We are unique, but it's complex to explain if you don't feel it. But explaining what we're not is really important, because a venture capital, the interest is making money and interest rates or exiting for your portfolio, and that's their end game. Okay, a angel investor is trying to make the either have fun, educate himself, or make interest rate on that. And here's what we're not. What we're not. We do not want an exit strategy. Exit for us is amazing, but it's a fallback, because you 3 reasons to do an exit. 1, you're sick of the business and you don't like your partners. 2, you don't believe in yourself that you can grow, okay? And you can't do it without the bigger company getting you, okay? And 3, you don't like what you're doing anymore. There's a 4 of ego wanting in the newspaper, but it can't be like, I can't believe that it's just that. But those reasons are exit. So it's a fallback strategy, where I always have a fallback strategy, because as an investor, And an entrepreneur, I got hit so hard sometimes that you have to know how much you're willing to risk and why. Okay. And you make your own rules. So that's important because we're in the same interest, I think, of someone who's passionate, because what we want is a vehicle. We want that to rise. It doesn't matter if it pivots, and that's the people in it. It's what you do with it, not in the beginning, but throughout the lifetime. And we want people who enjoy they enjoy their partners, they believe in themselves, right? And they're not going to be sick of their own vehicle. And so for us, that's that. And we're not looking for liquidity. And we have a community that we know that that money, it's not that there's going to be an interest to make ROI on that or someone pushing behind that. So that's what we're not. That's why we're active. We're not good as if you're a Mustang horse and you want it done your way, then we just want to be with impact. That's not what we want to control, and we want to be a part of it because we're young, energetic, and we have time. And being an investor is really boring. So, so we do things that we love, and we want them to have fun here as well.
What is the criteria you look for? Who is a fit for M51?
Okay, so who is a fit on M51? So that's a great question. So instead of getting into exactly who, there's a few characteristics. I call them real life superpowers. Okay, that are a must. There's a lot of things that it depends, it differs, but there's a must. One, optimism. We will not touch someone who is negative as an entrepreneur. We will not touch someone who is a non-optimist. Like for many reasons, it's a 100% no deal. Two, there is a real pain to solve either an own problem or a specialty or something not in the idea, okay, but in it's a passion, but it's something that for him, he committed out loud to his family, to himself, to other people. Three, he will not fight for potential. He will fight for existence, meaning it's more important for him or her to want this to be alive than to be cheap on something that does not exist. Okay, these are three, I'll say, characteristics that are no deal, no matter whatever deal that's in. There's all kinds of other rules. We have 51, there's a reason for that. We have the 51 Bible rule, but the three definite no's that it doesn't even go through filter. I don't want to see in Excel. I thank you so much, and I think you're incredible, but I think you have to do a few things and, like me, fail a bunch of times, okay? And understand why you're doing this, because I was like that, by the way, but I have to say, I wouldn't invest in myself when I was like that, and I got better.
When you started M51, who were some of the key people that you decided to bring on board?
Everybody except for me. Like, I understand. This is how I see the world. The world is me. I'm a multiplier of 1 in NASDAQ. I'm worth myself. Okay. Now the deal is how much multipliers around me that I can be exponentially having the growth. So I'm always worth 1. So the key was the people who are behind me, which are the Weisz family, which were with me on the exits that I did in the beginning on the high tech, which are incredible. They come together with, like, someone that I met there called the King, which is an insanely talented, brilliant person. Also, they are brilliant, and that's having no impact on a certain business, but having those people on the way to learn from their fails and their structures, and just picking those little fruits on the way were a must. A few people that had various different exits or success and failures with me. I have something that I'm very proud of, which is really stupid fact, but I like it because I'm a journey person. That's the destination is my proof. I'm not that old yet. I'm about 40 and 24 years from my first incorporated company, like the real and not the smaller companies. And for me to say one thing, I do not remember. No, you know what? That's just how you're saying it. I have no partner that I left him with. Either he hit his KPI and where we wanted to be. 2, the business itself. 3, he became better lifestyle. 4, he he wished for some or more professional, or at just a little of impact that was positive. Even if I failed with him a few times, for me, it was my responsibility. I don't have one partner. I have businesses that didn't succeed a lot, but I don't have a partner. So that asking the question is, those people that had those successes that know that I'm a marathon person, then, there's something about the beginning of something. You need people to be like a speakerphone because you hit yourself all the time. So those people who believed in me and are successful entrepreneurs that could actually help me have those relationships, which is Yaniv and it's Tal and it's Andre and it's Tomer and like, I have a list, but the community was people who already knew before, and it was a lifesaver on that side, and they were very key.
I want to talk about, Ronen, some of the podcast episodes, some of the people you've had on the podcast, and I wanted to start with your brother and what you've learned from your brother, specifically around culture.
As my story that you heard in the beginning, I was definitely not the most talented and the most matching. I actually thought for a while that I was the son of a milkman or something, because we have a very big diversity of types of family. We do have a gigantic common denominator after I learned that, but as siblings, you are competitive. But I have to say, I have an incredibly trying to be empowering and empathetic family, which I didn't appreciate as much as I do today. Now that I'm a father, I understand that, holy shit, you guys are great, which I saw as a minus before because it was my fault. I changed cultures. So here I'm getting to my brother. My brother is academically very good. He's an amazing people person. He's a great manager, and he is a great learner of methods, meaning my dad, as opposed to me doing it my way, he was very good at adapting and learning and thinking methodically. His career was, he stayed overseas, like my husband family, and he studied like INSEAD, McKinsey, worked for Yossi Vardi and Uzziah Galil in venture capital. Then he was CEO of eBay Israel, VP of eBay US, and today VP of the biggest agri-tech company, Indigo. After like 10 years as the VP and different like data science and marketing and stuff like that, I did everything there. But his superpower is this. So because he was born in Israel, raised in the US, raised in Canada, studied in France, worked in Portugal, worked in London, worked in China, worked in Israel. He's a very good learner of also like the empathetic part, the people person, pleaser, okay? And methods and thinking, specifically on methodological, plus knowing the languages and never having like a certain home being like that global thing in the years of the 90s, okay? He actually was really intrigued and passionate about cultures because his end job was doing not like venture capitalist normal things, but acquiring giant companies and implementing and stuff like that. And he was amazing at it on the sense that deals are made mostly psychologically and on trust and stuff like that. And the culture gaps between that. So he had the common denominator, and he always had a method to get in. And him and my father wrote a book about it where they already have like a model or equation of what type of industry you're in and what is the next branch you should open by culture gaps on a number base. Funny enough, and this wasn't for the podcast, but this is it.
International business, it's called.
Right. So they have this amazing graph of an equation.
Where can people
all
get
kinds
it?
of things?
Right.
Anywhere. It's like it's online, it's digital, it's not digital, it's hard copied, it's translated.
So they would just look up international business and Amit Menipaz.
Amit and Professor Ehud Menipaz, which is my father.
Yeah.
And and just for the listeners to understand, my dad was here and I didn't have the book, and I thought about it, how disappointing that is as a son. So I have that book. It wasn't for the podcast. This was total like non-planned. And you asked about my brother. Coincidence. Anyway, so that's it. And I think that's why he's so easy to implement in a company, Because if you're looking for a global company and understanding, this, like, I lost a lot of money by not thinking about culture gaps. And it's insanely a deal breaker where you don't even know why it didn't work. Like, there's things there that it's unexplainable. And the worst thing about it is, in the global internet, it's like, if you're opening up a business, 90%, you're going to have to get that. It's not like, what it was before. So it's definitely a great super, and that's what's passionate about. So he was a big inspiration. And after I had no ego and I started asking for help, which is a great decision by me, I actually learned a lot of easygoing, logical sense of how to decide from this global platform that you can connect it to everybody, what to focus on, which is, I think, the harder thing today. What not to focus on is a lot harder than what to focus on.
First of all, Ronen, one last question. I know we're a little bit over here. Before I ask it, I want to point people to m51.co to check out more, learn more about what they're working on, and just check out what Ronen is doing. It's Ronen, and then last name Menipaz. Ronen, talk about some, I know it's like picking a favorite child, but some interesting episodes from your podcast and the guests you've had on.
Oh no, actually, that's actually things that I would listen to, especially, and some that are less for my features. It's just not objective. It's not choosing a son. There's definitely people that I more appreciate there. So whoever's looking for an inspirational mindset, okay, and there's unique people, real life superheroes, like a superhero that definitely is doing something for the greater good. You feel it, you know it. And if you're missing it from like the old way, like, the old places where you did something for a community or a world or something like that, where there's less people like that. There's the Russian woman who's trying to go to Mars, which is an amazing story. And she's like, there's a Foo Fighters song. So I like Foo Fighters. It's called There Goes My Hero, He's Ordinary. Okay. There's a few people that I have that are like that. She's a real life for me. Okay. A great inspiration of reminding you how important the journey is. And it doesn't matter if you're doing something you love, you're going to be amazing, and you're going to be rich enough, not only in your pocket, also in your mindset, because everybody wants to be around you. The second one would be Brian Annington, because he is the founder of HubSpot, where I'm always intrigued in. I'm amazing at taking things from nothing to a business, and I'm amazing at leveraging and solving problems and making them gigantic and solving problems on the way. But there's something about maintenance where what I'm intrigued about is, how does he, with everything you can do, stay focused all the time, say no to all kinds of opportunities. And I'm saying this on this, I want more people to be proud of the checkpoints that have tens of thousands of employees than selling and doing something cool. But it is hard. It's even hard for me, because you always want to be exciting and you want to excite yourself. So he has a lot of inspiration on that note, and it's a pain that I admire.
And just really quickly, people can go to reallifesuperpowers.com, check it out. And there's Brian Halligan of HubSpot's on there, and the other lady, do you recall her name? Was it Derry or is that someone different?
No. It's Anastasia.
Anastasia. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So, and last one. Practical shortcuts for being on time and utilizing your time. Phil had two. It's simple, but it was great. That's it. Those are my favorites. Sorry, other guys.
Check it out, as well as m51.co. Thank you, Ronen. I'm the first one to thank you. Thanks, everyone.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.